Okay.
Yeah.
It's being recorded now.
That's the start with it.
Two more instances of breaking.
That's for business photos on a Windlewood.
Windwood and somewhere else names, but they were white covers down here, so you can't talk.
Okay. Okay, welcome everybody to Mumbles Community Council meeting for 14th of May 2024. So if I move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence. Okay.
I have received apologies from Councillor Sarah Keaton and Councillor Helen Nelson.
Okay.
I received apologies from Councillor Rhian Evans.
Okay, so can we have those noted, please? And item number 2, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Anyone? Tim Zhu is join the meeting. Seem to join.
Have the whole screen to himself.
Yay!
Hi, Tim. Thanks for joining us. We're just on item 2. Oh, and there's Emily as well. Amelia. Hey, are you with us? You look a bit frozen. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. Okay, we're just on item 2 of the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? If not, okay. So then if you move on to item 3, public participation. Members of the public take opportunity to ask questions on any item on the agenda. I haven't seen anything submitted and I can't see any members of the public in attendance here today. So then if we move on to item 4, which is to approve the minutes of the special council meeting on the 1st of the 5th. You find these in your meeting pack. So
Can I make a suggestion?
yes.
Why don't we have the documents up on the screen? And you'll still be able to see the people along the side, but then everyone wouldn't be having to have bits of paper.
Bits of paper. Are you able to do that? Or shall we do it?
If the councillors read them before the meeting, because if there are errors, would be doing anything.
I have read them, I've read them all, but it does, you know, when you've got 20 documents, you don't remember every word of each document.
What we will do,
Yeah.
because it's submit, take and control what documents are coming
Oh,
on the
okay.
screen. What we'll do for the next meeting, next full council, I will control the documents that go on screen and Ian can, if that's okay.
Well, I'd say if there is a mistake or an amendment, let me know beforehand. And
Oh, yeah,
Well,
that's no problem.
well, the only, I suppose, words of caution I would say with that, sometimes we have a lot of documents. I think we need to, so if you're prepared to monitor the documents and the documents go on, but, the rest of the minutes, yes, I suppose we can do that. So, as I said, with the documents that we've got at the moment, this is the minutes of the Mumbles Community Council meeting held at the special meeting on the 1st of May. If I go through page 1, then page 2. Okay, are we happy as a council to okay these minutes? All those in favour? Thank you. The board minutes are okay. So, to improve the minutes of the annual general meeting, again in your meeting pack, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. page 4. And page 5. Any comments, observations in relation to those? If not, I'm happy to accept those representation of the AGM. Yeah. All in favour, thank you. Okay, that's. We moved on to the clerk's report.
Thank you. So a very short and quick one for me this evening. So first of all, just wanted to say thank you to all the outgoing chairs of all the committees. It's been a very enjoyable experience working with you all on the committees and the hard work you've done this year. I want to say congratulations to the new chairs of the new committees. I'm looking forward to working with you all this year going forward. And then just a reminder from me that if councillors require staff to undertake any work, the request note needs to come to me and not to the member of staff with me copied into the email, if that's okay, please. Thank you.
Welcome, Phil, for joining the meeting. We go on to the chair's report now. I only prepared a report a week ago, so I haven't prepared a full formal report as is normally my custom. But there are a couple of things I wanted to mention. Going forward, we've changed the format in the ways that chairs of particular councils report. Pardon?
Chairs of committee.
Chairs of committees report, sorry. Chairs of committees report. And I do think it's important going forward that we have a written document being prepared by the chairs of the relevant committees that is submitted before or actually on the day, so that we do have a written record that goes into the files of our documents recording on the decisions of the committees.
Would you want an update on the action points of those committees?
Well, the action points would come later on from the committees and the reports on the committees.
But in that report, you don't want an update on actions?
We could do with an update on where we are in the actions of those particular committees. What I'm trying to establish more than anything is that we have a distinct audit trail kept on our teams or our filing system, whichever way you want to look at it, of what was discussed at the committees, what decisions were made, and how those actions are proceeding. Okay, it's just that I just think we need to sort of sharpen up on those, because it's all part of our audit trail going forward, so that 2 or 3 years down the line, people will sort of say, well, how was that decision came to? What was the discussions around that decision? How was that decision actioned? And then the other point I wanted to make as well is I want to particularly reinforce the point that Kerry made there, that going forward, the way that the council should work is the directions for staff actions need to come from Kerry or Paul as the chair, as the clerk and vice clerk of the council. It is not for chairs of committees to be telling staff and giving staff directions for activities. Obviously, we don't want to sort of break down sort of communication with staff and staff members, but I think it's vitally important going forward that all activities from staff are approved through the clerk and through the council, so that we know that what is going on and so that we know what are the demands being placed on our staff. Okay.
What about follow-ups? There's something that hasn't been done from the last committee, so do I write to Kerry asking about an update on the follow-up?
Yes.
Okay.
You go everything really when it comes to the actions of the staff. Everything goes through Kerry, because Kerry ultimately is the line manager of the staff.
Thanks so
The
much.
also point basically I'm trying to make is it is for the council to make the decisions of what activities that we're going to do. But it is then for the staff, Kerry is the staff, to action those activities and make sure that they're being done. And if for any reason why they're not being done, then that needs to come back to the council. I just think we need to sort of smarten up to be a bit more formal like that. So that concludes my brief chair's report for this month. So if we move on to point 8, which is the financial report to May. Okay. Again, you've got this in your meeting pack. Any questions, any observations?
One question, Chair. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to it. There's fish and chips in there. I'm guessing that's family fun day. It's just probably better to put on record if someone's reading it.
No, it's from funding that we had for Coffee with Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fish and chips.
Yeah.
There's £500 for fish and chips there.
So there's a grant for that.
Yeah.
Not chips.
Fish and chips, £500.
Two days.
Yeah. So what are you saying, Will? Do you think that it should be item that this was paid for from a grant?
Well, it's always good for transparency. If I was looking at those accounts and I saw fish and chips, £500. Exactly. So I think it's probably
Place though.
yeah.
Yeah, there's what
That was a joke there.
whereas the income came in October, so that would have been reported as income on your October, November report, and then obviously as we've spent out of it, that expenditure comes forward. So, just so we're clear, just for the fish and chips, do you want all expenditure for grant funding highlights this grant funding expenditure going forward? So
I think that makes sense to me.
it's
But
grant funding, just so you're not picking on one item, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think-
And we can implement that going forward, that when we receive the grant. Because we have to do reports on the grant funding and what we spent anyway, so it makes no difference to us that we can mark it as grant funding.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think that could be a good idea as well, because the more that we make it clearer for people when they read the accounts, the better. Carrie?
Yeah, maybe I imagine, but I vaguely remember at one time,
Yeah, please.
I beg your pardon, sorry.
that it used to have some sort of code so you could identify which budget it was from, you know, whether it was culture or environmental or. I just thought that would be helpful because it gives you an idea of where the expenditure is coming from. And then you could always have grants just at the bottom as a separate, list,
Because you get them in the committees, don't you? You get your committee.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, but what Paul has just given you here is basically just expenditure.
Just the full list,
Yeah.
yeah. I just vaguely remember at one time, many years ago probably, we did it, they were coded. Sort of to match the code that was on the.
I can query that with Paul.
Yeah.
Back from annual leave.
Well, I was going to say,
Possibly before Paul was here.
maybe we could action that we have some discussion with Paul about how we make these accounts more accessible to the lay reader. Okay?
I can see here, Whitestone's Whitestone School took up the eco grant of £500. How many high schools took up the grant?
As far as I'm aware, only Whitestone. I can clarify that, Liz.
Is it fantastic?
Yeah.
Oyster Mouth had theirs ages ago.
Just going to ask a question on that. Is that a grant that's open to all schools and all schools can have?
Yes.
Is it?
All schools were contacted regularly, about 4 or 5 times.
And is that now money that they can't have?
Debt's gone.
Right.
So Newton had a change of head during that,
Yeah.
but it was chased up a couple of times. I believe they didn't pick it up at the last minute. So
Right.
I think every school's had it.
Very good.
Every school was contacted several times.
Okay, so we're happy with that, the real action, just have doing some work or maybe.
To respectfully approve the payment.
Yes. So are we all happy to retrospectively approve these payments for these accounts? Favor? Thank you. So report from the outgoing chair of finance and compliance committee.
I'm sorry, there's a couple more things in these reports. So we've got the budget monitor report.
Oh, yeah.
Fixed asset report as well.
The mistake was at the back there, wasn't it? So that's the budget monitoring report. That's number 4, isn't it?
Yes.
That's it. So if councillors could turn their attention to this about budget monitoring 31st of the 3rd. Any questions on this? Any observations? No? Not yet, is it? So if that's the case, can I move that we accept this report as well? Then if we got the, we're not doing, are we doing a fixed asset thing now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so if you go on to the next page after then, there's a report of the RFO on our fixed asset register. This is something we need to do. So have a look at it.
So there's 3 recommendations attached to this fixed asset report.
Yeah, see the bottom there. So the recommendations there, just in case you haven't got, I'll read them out. A fixed assets policy is prepared and reviewed by the Finance and Compliance Committee before being reported to Council for approval. Approval is given for the recording of fixed assets with a value of more than £500, only preparation of fixed assets policy, and approval to be given to remove the items shown in the table above from the fixed asset register. Any questions on this? I know some of you haven't got the document in front of you, but if not, can I propose that we accept this and we accept the recommendations?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, happy to do that. Okay, that's that one brought. So if we move on to item 9 then, report from the outgoing chair of the Finance and Compliance Committee.
Thank you, Chair. It's a report, actually. We haven't had a meeting, so. We have a meeting Monday, is it, Ian?
It is, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Nothing to report on what's going on.
The last meeting was from Quorum Chair.
Okay, anything going forward? Okay. Report from the outgoing chair of the Community and Social Committee.
Well, you're in the same position actually. I didn't realise I had to write another report. I do apologise.
Yeah.
I should have.
There's,
I thought I'd written the last one.
Yeah.
We sent them to Kerry, didn't we? Our outgoing chair's reports.
I just said I didn't realise I had to write another one. I thought I'd written my last one.
No, that wasn't.
But we're in the same position. Our meetings are next week.
next week.
So we can report things there.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a question though. We had money, we thought we had money that we would have been able to via in Community and Social, but I heard Perry saying earlier that it's not going to be this month, it will be next. So that will be in that committee next month.
Is this to do with the auditor?
Yeah, so figures haven't fully been finalised for year end. So that's what Paul alluded to in his report. So he just comes back from holiday tomorrow. So he's got some work to do to finalise those figures. I'm meeting with him next week. And then once I'm caught up with him, I'll be able to come back to the committees and let you know when final figures will come into committees.
Right, thank you very much.
That's not the kind of situation.
Thank you.
I think that's the situation we're in. Okay, report from outgoing chair of the Environmental Committee, who unfortunately isn't chaired at the moment. Report from outgoing chair of Culture, Tourism and Communications Committee.
Nothing much to report, just that Mumfest is, we'll be writing to all councillors to ask if they can give a couple of hours on the day to help with sales at the gate and maybe a couple of other things inside, but everything's underway for that, so no, nothing else to report.
Okay.
I've got something that's coming up under culture. I wanted to talk to Angela, but she wasn't in the room for me to say to her. Just a heads up for councillors, actually. On the French are coming on Sunday the 9th of June, leaving on the 14th, the Friday. On 13th, you know, last year we had a big do at the Curry House, and lots of councillors came along to that, which was just lovely. This year, on Thursday the 13th, there'll be another such gathering at Mumbles Yacht Club. So to give councillors heads up of the date and to say everybody's welcome to come to that.
Well, obviously.
Oh, obviously, yes, but we'll have to pay for you. We're not paying for you, we just pay for French. I'm sorry, we just had a meeting last night, so as a representative, I'm trying to catch up.
So can we get this circulated?
I'll circulate the whole program.
Okay.
We're going to have it.
Sorry, just going to take me out to the calendar because it's easy to.
Yeah. Yeah. Angela?
Yeah, sorry, if you can send an invite round, that would be great. I was just wondering if it's in the evening, and if I can, I'll be there.
It's in the evening, Angela, but we only had the meeting yesterday, so Carrie, as chair of that meeting, or secretary to that meeting, was going to type up everything today sometime and send it to me, but it's going to go straight out to councillors anyway, so you'll have the whole year's
Weeks.
you'll have 4 weeks itinerary in front of you in a day or two, so you can see what's going on there.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Echoing a bit what Will says there, I think it is useful to have these things in the calendar for things because, you know, it's prompts people's memories. This is it.
Thank you.
Okay. So if I move on to point 13, to consider the re-establishment of the Planning and Development Committee. This has come from this, there's been a number of correspondence, people have got in contact with us when it comes to planning. I know some of the councillors have brought it up with me as well. We did have a planning committee before, as you know, but we didn't really have enough people on it, I suppose, more than anything. This, we just wanted to discuss whether there was an appetite really for re-establishing the planning committee and whether it would be useful. Andrea, is that a legacy hand up or you want to say something? Legacy hand. So
What does the planning committee do?
well, the planning committee will have a look as it operated before. Obviously, in a lot of ways, we haven't got a lot of power when it comes to planning, but we can comment and we can make our views known as a community council. What the planning council, what the planning committee would do, would consider. We've had some thoughts about this, to be honest. Is I think rather than us meeting all the time for over every little planning application that there is, it'd probably be useful to just review the planning applications that come in, and anything that is a bit major, maybe a bit controversial, then to convene the planning committee then.
Now, Staunton City Council used to, when we were over in the other building, every month they would send a whole sheet of them all. So does that still happen?
Yes, and it's still available. But what I'm sort of saying, rather than go through everything in that, because let's be honest, a lot of those are windows or, you know, the roof extension or something like that. But at the same time, you know, sometimes there are major things, you know, people have made the observation about, and I did say it time about when the big wheel came, you know, whether that was going to be discussed formally at council. We didn't formally discuss it at council. Well, the 3G mast was another one. There's a lot of controversy around that. I've noticed today, to be honest, is that the planning application for Ripples has been turned down now, isn't it?
Good.
Yeah, well, this is what I mean. But, you know, that was another one that came around at the time. Carrie?
Yeah, couple of things. First of all, when all the committees were reorganised, planning was put into environmental. And several times people have been reminded that there is that opportunity to raise things which can be discussed at the environmental committee as part of that, but nothing has ever been put forward. So it does beg the question as to what level of interest there is in people actually doing this. If for the last 2 or 3 years, that opportunity has been there and nobody's ever taken it up.
I very much agree with you, Carrie, to be perfectly honest. But at the same time, I think it is useful for us as a council and healthy for us as a council, maybe so often, to review the situation and say, you know, have people's changed, because there has been a number of instances recently, as I sort of said, with the phone mast, with the big wheel, with what's happened to Ripples, where certain issues have come up, and maybe we haven't formally discussed them as a council. So should we re-establish Will and then?
Yeah, I should say a couple of things. One is obviously that there's still the opportunity, it's still part of environmental and anybody can
Bring them up there.
What is meant by development?
Well, the development committee, well, I think it's just the
Planning and development.
planning and development, you know,
So
say,
what's the development bit? That's what I'm asking. Why is it not just the planning committee? What is the intention of creating it as a planning and a development? I think it's a reasonable question to know what
I
it's.
I don't know, I think it's just a terminology. I think with anything that would come in, we would only be discussing things that came up from the planning.
So perhaps we just call it planning,
Planning committee, yeah.
and it could stay as planning subcommittee as it is at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious what development means.
Well, can you explain it then?
Well, let's
It's a development.
okay,
It could be a house.
yeah,
We're not interested in a cow shed. It's going to be,
yeah. Can we just go around
Development.
one at a time? We're talking about angels on Downton side of opinion.
Planning then.
Can we, Rob?
Go on, Rob, it's fine.
I was going to say, yeah, obviously there's been not much uptake on this in the past, but you think of the major projects which have gone on around here, like the pier, and I'm not on about the wheel, I'm on about the pier development, the Ripples one. There's been a number of things, and what we see is on social media, people expect us to have an opinion on things like that. So rather than be slated all over social media, I think in principle, the idea of a planning committee is very good, but not just for, somebody's relics or conservatory.
I think that's the point they're making now.
Yeah. But for the bigger projects, I think the public expect us to have a view. And possibly we should have a view as a council as well as our independent views.
I think that's the point they're making really, is that the way that issues have been said to the big wheel, send round an email, just generally the consensus was people were just generally happy. But we didn't have a formal discussion about it, which was formally minuted. So, should we be thinking of a format for doing that? Will?
Yeah, so I'm all for the planning committee re-establishing itself. I think it's a good idea, good for the council to have a voice. However, as most people know, no, there wasn't really the passion from councillors to be on it for a number of reasons. I think planning is always a bit of a tricky one for councillors to get involved in as well. Certainly at Swansea Council, if you support someone's planning application, you annoy someone else, or vice versa.
Exactly.
So it's always a bit of a hot potato. So what they do in Swansea, obviously, if you want to call in an application, if you want an application to be looked at by the planning committee, you obviously either have to get, oh God, I shouldn't have said this now. It's either 50 signatures or you have to get a certain amount of community, and I should know this, sorry, I should know it. It's in my mind somewhere. But you have to get a certain amount of community support to call in your application, because councillors are calling too many applications. So it might be that we can only establish a meeting if a certain amount of people say they're going to be there, right?
Yeah.
And if we can't, then that shows the people that those people don't care about that application, right? So it would encourage, so if all of the council were members of the planning committee, right? And they said, well, there's a big application. Clark sends out saying,
These applications come in.
this application's come in, exactly, and we're looking for people to go on it.
Yeah.
And you would then show willing by going on it, and that might be the way to do it. Like a special meeting dedicated to planning, and that might work better. Just an idea.
We will have the option of
Being on it or not, and also you're not likely to be core then, aren't you? So it's just an idea.
Richard and then Pam.
Yeah, no.
I'll go after these two.
Okay, Richard, I'll go ahead. Oh, I think.
Well, that's a good, sorry, me comment, the cabinet, so drop my hand down.
Okay,
That's a very good, who are we going to identify on this council including staff? Who, the person who is going to say, we need to talk about this?
well,
If it's not going to environment, the chair, who will we identify? Because otherwise it's a bit woolly.
yeah, Kerry, did you want to come in on this? Yeah, a bit of a chat on this.
So that's well, this is that because you get the list every week,
Yeah.
planning lists every week, and some councils have planning committees every 2 weeks, some have them every month. You get so many days from application to make comments on them, as you're aware of, as a Swansea City councillor. So some town councils and community councils operate where the clerk will have delegated powers to put yes, no sense of general shed extension, window change, X, Y, and Z, and then anything controversial, the clerk will add that on to the end of the agenda for full council. So are you suggesting something along those lines? Or are you suggesting that you call, because what I don't want you to do, and I don't want members of the public to get the impression that we're getting the list every week and we're going, oh, you're not important, you're not important, but that comes upon and we need a meeting on that. Submitting 4 or objections on each application, and then if there's one that you feel is going to be extremely controversial, I don't know, like let's say Marks and Spencer sold and it was going to put block of flats in over there, you'd want to comment, yeah, and you'd want to raise your concerns like flaws and things like that. So you need to define how it would work.
Yeah.
properly.
The question, the answer to that is I don't know what I. But I don't think delegated powers works personally, because I think then that's not the community council's, it's the clerk's opinion. It's like, you know what I mean? And if you don't like it, if someone comes in really nagging you might go, oh God, just get off.
Pity if it was something that I was interested in. But
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. In the past, when we did have a planning committee, I was very proactive in it.
Yeah, so you were.
The clerk at the time was very proactive in it. You were a member of it. Richard was a member of it. Now, Newton, Langland, Caswell, there's a lot of applications. A number of them are contentious because of the size of the developments, and you know, what was formerly a bungalow becomes a 5-bedroom, 3-story house, and the implications of that are considerable. Now, Pickett Mead has been going on for years now. It's still going on. I'm still involved in it. Broadview Close, that was a very contentious application.
been thrown out, the appeal.
Yes, I know that, but that was thanks to a lot of work that was put in, by the neighbours, Mrs. Cooper, Pauline Cooper. You may know, there are other members here this evening that may not know. So, you know, Mrs. Cooper was more than happy to see the application rejected. However, having said that, it was a close call. Now, of course, the other one was the Oyster Bar.
Yeah.
Now, the developer of Broadview and the Oyster Bar, they were going to be car free. So normally when you make a planning application, you're going to afford parking for a minimum of 2 cars. So, oh no, we're not, we're going to be car free. We'll put a little shed there for some bikes. And how on earth do you police the people that either buy or rent these apartments? Because that's what they were both going to be.
So have we got any jurisdiction over this?
No.
Pardon?
Not over that, no, we haven't. Can we let Ian finish, please?
Sorry? I wondered if we have any jurisdiction over all of these,
Have we any jurisdiction?
over car parking spaces?
Well, we don't have any jurisdiction in our way.
It's not a question of jurisdiction, it's a planning requirement. And if you know anything about planning, you'll know that you have to provide car parking space.
Can you
But the other thing with the Oyster Glass, money was made available on the planning application for pedestrian crossing, is that correct?
Oyster Bar, what do you, yeah.
Go with the rugby club.
Yeah, it's a part of the 106 funding across.
Yeah. So,
Go in.
I think planning is particularly important. You know, we should do it, but if there's no appetite, well, okay, there's no.
On Will's point, what if we say we will look at it if we get at least 15 people signing a petition type thing to say that they want us to look at it?
What I was going to say,
Or is that just
can
party way?
we take this back to have a look at the mechanics, the process of how this might work? But I think in general, taking the view of the room is, I think there is a will to re-establish the planning committee. I'll be perfectly honest, Kerry, I got some misgivings about maybe you, or mainly because you don't live. Yeah. So I think we need to have some sort of mechanism where the clerk has a role in reviewing the applications that come in and might sort of say, have you seen this? Have you seen that? But at the same time, I think we need some feedback from individual councillors when something of particular interest in particular wards, or if a member from that particular ward comes to them and then.
Would you like me to contact to see how many other community council responses have committees that put responses in, and then I can contact those community councillors.
Let's see what.
So what I think, if you're going to re-establish a committee, at least one member from each ward on the committee.
I think it's got to be a council-wide committee just to get.
I think so.
Otherwise, people they just won't. It'll be what we call
So
it.
you can just bring the applications onto the
Yeah.
edit.
Like we do with the agenda or something, and then we can bring it to the full council. Richard.
I get what you say about clerk. Plus, we don't want to overload our staff, so that does happen. However, I think having someone on it, like a clerk, who doesn't live in the area, could be more unbiased.
Yeah, well, you just, what I think I'm advocating, you need sort of some checks and balances, really. Is, something that, as we know, sometimes something can inflame a lot of local passion. Yeah. And if you don't live locally, you might be unaware of this. But at the same time, somebody who just takes a bit of an overview of the reviews that are coming in. So going forward, shall we resolve that Kerry goes away, looks at stuff elsewhere, and then we come back to council either next month or the month after with some recommendations of how it might work in practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that right with you, Clark?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So move on to point 14, to consider correspondence from Mumbles Community Association. Any?
Yeah, so this is just bringing forward the correspondence that we've received from Mumbles Community Association with regards to the proposed relocation of the stand for the tier 3, and obviously the further correspondence we've received about them recruiting trustee members. So obviously just wanting to take comments from councillors really that we can feed back to MCA, and also obviously these documents I can put for the trustees I can provide you with should you wish to circulate them around any members. And I'm unfortunately still waiting for the advice on whether we as a council can put trustees forward to sit on there, so I will chase that again to see if we can get some response on that. And when I get that response, I'll circulate that around via email if that's okay, Chair.
Okay. Will?
Yeah, my only comment is the two things they've asked for from Mumbles Rangers here. I know the clerk's done a lot of work on this already, so
Late, but no. We were listening in the car.
If we could liaise with Mumbles Rangers and help them get it over the line, because it'd be good to probably push it that little bit further, but that's very common. We could, do a joint response to them.
That agreement's now being.
In my opinion, as long as the tier 3 can happen in the park, it's a huge leap from where we were previously, and we have proved after we said and Rangers said for years that it does fit, and we proved it fitted, and the MCA came up with a plan showing it also fitted after all. So that's fine as long as we get the result. It's not perfect, but acceptable.
It's yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion.
Congratulations. Great positivity and for their,
Yes.
looking positively at solutions.
They are doing a fun day in July, and they've requested whether we would be interested in putting our environmental stand up there. So I said that I would feed that back to council and let them know the decision. So
What date, Kerry?
13th of July.
Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody got any views or observations on that?
Sounds fine.
Yeah, I think so. Fine.
The only thing I would ask is obviously holiday season, so if I've got no staff to work,
Yeah.
our councillors available and willing to step in and first, please.
Can we put it on the June agenda for Parliament committee? We'll get.
Yeah.
By.
So if I go back to them to say in principle, we're happy to put one confirmed, but we'll do June select committee meeting, yeah?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're happy to, all those in favour of the event stand on the, yeah. Okay. Okay then, so we're happy to go on to point 15, consider correspondence from Mumbles Rugby Club.
Yeah, so I've been contacted by Simon Evans from Mumbles Rugby Club, asking that I would place the information in front of you. So I have added it to your file, but I will quickly use it because it's only a short email. I'm writing to request that you place on your agenda of the next meeting a proposal to use the pavilion at Underhill Park and turning it into a community sports club / club for all organisations to use that use Underhill, such as a rugby club, Rangers football, Newton football and cricket. I know most of your councillors are aware of this proposal, as the figures attended a meeting several months ago that was held by Mumbles Rangers Rugby Club. We are seeking your permission and support to continue with this community project, and I have attached some simple plans, but it's proposed to submit complete plans to Swansea City Council. So the plans are in your folder. They are very
Well, yeah, personally, I think it's mentioned in the letter, but I think this, as long as this isn't purely a Mumbles Rugby Club project, obviously they're going to be the biggest users, I assume. But I think that the park is very much for everyone. The hub and the project is for everyone. So I think that needs to be established in the communications back. I know they need us to release or to give authority for this, but just to give people background, because in the partner grant agreement, it's not allowed to be changed from anything other than what it is, like a changing room. For I think it's either a year or 2 or 3, I can't remember the length of time, but that's why they're asking us, because they need our permission.
Okay, what do they want?
So we gave them money to change it into a changing room, the pavilion.
Yeah.
And they want to change. Unfortunately they've had to shut the sports, their bar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're relocating. They're looking. They've had other options, to be fair, but that's their preferred option, is to move and refurbish the pavilion into a.
So they haven't changed them. It hasn't been used.
Yeah, they've used it.
Sorry, let's go back 2 steps, just if it be helpful for everyone. Sorry, I assume people were up to speed with things, but Mumbles Rugby Club have to shut the rugby club, right? Which is very sad, but they have to move. The pavilion park is their preferred location to move to. We paid for that to be changed into a changing room. Not a lot of money, because it wasn't much change that happened there. Showers were put in and it was painted. So it was the one part of the build that we did the least to. We redid the roof and stuff, but so they need our permission to change that from anything other than a changing room, because it was part of the grant agreement for our funding.
So have it been refurbed? Is it changing room?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's currently changed.
They're asking permission to now is basically to change it into the rugby club. So you know, some other money coming in. Harry, sorry.
Yes, okay. So yeah, as long as it's not just Mumbles Rugby Club, so in fairness to them, I don't think they want it to be, so that needs to be corresponded. The business plan, how the income works, is still not been nailed down, I'm aware, from all the clubs, MCA, for example, who gets the income generated from the bar. That's my only concern at the moment, is that. And the other thing is, they've got a very small budget to do this up. So I do think that if we do have underspend in last year's budget, we could potentially consider, which will be a future meeting, looking at helping them establish a better facility. But that's something for the future. And no one's asked, to be fair, but I think we should bear it in mind. But the business plan for who makes the money and how that goes through the till is my only concern. I think we should ask that question in the correspondence back.
Carrie?
Yeah, I suppose I'm actually about to say the opposite of what Will has just said. I think we have spent a significant sum of money. It might not be as much as we spent on other bits, but we have spent a significant amount of money on the pavilion, which now basically we might as well have torn up and thrown down the drain. So my personal view would be, we are more than happy to support them, but we are not prepared to invest any further money in this venture. They have the rugby club, they're going to sell it, it's worth a lot of money. They, you know, and I think that just needs to be made clear. We have put everything that we have into that, and we really don't think that it's fair that they would then come back to us and ask for yet more money to change something we've already paid for.
To be perfectly fair, they haven't asked for this money.
No.
To be perfectly fair, I don't think this is a discussion that we need to have at this moment.
Well, I think we do before we give them their blessing. You know, I think we have to say, we are more than happy to.
We can give them the blessing, but I don't, you know, I don't think that we should be mentioning anything about money at this.
Well, I think we should, because this is the mess we've got ourselves into before. When we've said, oh, we don't have to worry about coal, and the money is out.
Then we need to have a full, if that is the case, then we need to have a full discussion throughout the full council about whether we are prepared or whether we're not prepared to give any more money on that. But I personally and honestly feel at this point, we're quite hard, it would be quite opposite to proceed by just sort of saying, sorry.
Don't tell you that, Martin.
That we're giving them the blessing to proceed with it, but you know, in principle, that's what I'm saying. There's no mention of any money whatsoever at this sort of point. Sarah, sorry.
I agree with Carrie, but on the other hand, looking at it long-term optimist, this could actually be sort out the money problems up there. Because if they have a healthy club there, and of course they keep it with everyone else, it will become the kind of hub we were hoping it would be in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand what you mean about the money there.
I was going to say, if they're going to sell the rugby club, then that's going to prove to be, give them a lot of money to build.
Oh, yeah.
With. But remember, we put money into the Mumbles Yacht Club, or as a British, I never which it is. We've given them money when they asked and came and asked if we could give them money to get plans sorted and things like that. So if we're going to treat the yacht club in that way, if the rugby club comes and asks us for money for things like that, then we can't say no, because we've set the precedent by helping the yacht club in exactly the same kind of endeavour. Because the yacht club will be still in selling.
And going back to what I was saying before, I honestly feel that this is a discussion that maybe we shouldn't be having at the moment, because exactly the point that you've made there, they're going to be selling the road, they've sold the rugby club, and they're going to have a decent pot of money from there. If there is
You can say that the yacht club will be selling their big building and they will.
Yeah, but they haven't sold it yet.
I know, but this is what you're saying in the presentation. We gave them money to have the plans done.
Yeah.
They'll then sell that building to build a new one. Well, if the rugby club's the same, they might come to us, ask for planning.
I think all that we've been asked to do at the moment is to give, as I sort of said, our blessing for them to proceed. Richard and then Rob.
To be honest, I don't think there's enough changing rooms there anyway.
Yeah.
So at the moment, and unless we have no more about it and have more of a discussion, I don't think we should give them the blessing for this.
Well, they got loaded chain, including ones for the female referees, different changing rooms.
Rob.
Thanks, Matt. I think, all we can do at the moment is talk about what we're actually given.
Yeah.
And what they've asked for is the commission or blessing. There's no money. They are, of course, entitled to ask for money at any time, but they haven't as yet.
Yeah.
Now, what we are doing, we are facing a situation where we are losing our rugby club, and we need another one.
Yeah.
So they've given us what I see as a good option up there, because the rugby club is actually going to be next to the pitch where most rugby clubs are in villages you visit and when you go to away games. One thing I do say about, and I'll use the word valleys rugby clubs, because a lot of them have their, the rugby club is the central drinking point of that village. They're cheap as chips. And one of the problems I think with the hub at Underhill we have at the moment is it's very expensive and it's off-putting to a lot of people. Now, not everybody down here is loaded or wants to drink Peroni. A lot of people are happy with Carlin and stuff like that. I don't want it to be somewhere, either place to be somewhere which is off-putting for locals to be able to go and have a drink. And when visiting sites come down, say, well, don't want to go back there again, they're taking a mick with their prices.
Yeah.
We'll go to the White Rose instead afterwards. We want to encourage it as a hub, as a rugby club, as a sports club, a sports destination, and also somewhere where the public can go as well. So in theory, I support the principle because I believe the rugby club should be next to the actual pitches they play. But I think, pricing is an important thing.
So from my understanding, they need permission imminently, straight away, that they need, because they want to do something. So we can't sort of go back and forth too much on this, I believe, because they want to try and establish something in September. That's correct, yeah? Okay.
Dates tonight at that time.
I got the impression they are keen to proceed ASAP.
It's the aid that need to approach us for the permission to change. So would it be worth, sorry to interrupt, Will?
Yeah.
Asking them both to come together and to attend a special meeting and give a joint presentation on it, and then you've got the opportunity to ask all your questions.
They have offered to do that.
Yes.
The next step is
To interrupt.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I just, so the things that I think need to be in our letter, I suppose, are that, I don't know if you want to write these down, but number one is that it should be coming from MCA, not Mumbles Rugby Club. The second one is Richard's point, can they prove that they don't need that changing room? The third one is, as Rob said, there's going to be drinking there. Are we going to be worried about noise, and is there enough toilet provision? Because the plan I've seen is pretty small toilet, so that would be
Small toilets in there at the moment, so I'm all for it. It's 4, I think.
I think, well, I've already seen some things on social media about people unhappy since the hub's open, and that's without 100 rugby boys drinking. So I think that is something. And noise and soundproofing is something that we probably, because it's definitely something we should at least think about. And with regards to a business plan, how's the income of the venue going to work, and is it going to be affordable for locals? I think that
How do you want to send a letter, and it's just our response to go back and forth, or to send a letter saying we'd like to invite you to come to a meeting to answer these questions and others, so then you can get your answers available on the night, and then it takes the to and fro out of it. You can also, because as we said, the change of use or everything needs to come from MCA, because that's who the grant agreement's with, isn't it?
So would you send them the list that Will has just made, so they've got four,
Absolutely.
yes.
So can I just add one more to the list, is that confirmation that this is fully supported by Mumbles Rangers, etc., because it's all very well putting it in an email, but we need to be confident that this is a joint venture,
Well,
not a Mumbles Rugby Club.
that would be the Angela.
Well, it needs to be written, it's another thing that needs to be
Are
written.
you happy for me to include that you are happy to support in principle, however, you want clarifications on the following points? You don't want it to feel that it's negative. And again, would you like me to circulate the letter to you all before you send it off? So if there's any comments, then I can put a deadline on it again. And if there's any comments or tweaks you want me to make, you all come back to me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Angela.
Hiya, yeah, just to say, obviously it's not asking for us to just to give any money now. I agree with what Sarah said, and I think I agree with what Sarah said, and I think Mumbles Rugby Club.
William.
What's going on?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Yeah, okay. No, no, I agree with what Sarah said about Mumbles Rugby Club. I think it will make it a successful business, and I support it. And my only reservation is whether or not how the Underhill Hub will survive, I guess, because that's that I do support it and I'd like to see it there, but I wonder. Sorry, there's a loud noise in the background, like someone's talking really loudly. Maybe it's the echo. That's what it is. It's the echo back. Yeah. So I just have reservations on how the Underhill Hub will survive through this, unless it's going to agree to open at completely different times, maybe. But the Underhill Hub already struggles in the daytime. I don't think it makes any money in the daytime. So then
That would be a
option.
That would be a topic for this joint discussion. Phil?
It was just a question, actually. Is it listed? The pavilion? No, that's fine.
It's a building of note.
Just, I understand that it's the intention that MCA run the bar. However, the clubs haven't done a proposal of who makes the income from the bar. So it needs work.
Yeah. I think we all understand that, but I think the next step is this meeting and putting this letter together. And I think that will give us a strong, firm foundation for going forward. We all happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving forward. Point 16, to consider correspondence from BT and adoption of BT phone kiosk at Glen Road, West Cross. We're both up there. And I know some of you have had correspondence about this. It's gone out on social media. We've had quite a bit of feedback from people who are supporting it. I've had a couple of emails back and forth to BT. They do an adoption of these kiosk scheme. It's not particularly expensive. So this is a proposal in front of us. Sarah, I know you're the councillor.
I've had so many about it. I didn't know it was just a tsunami that suddenly came in. I had to go down and look at it because I thought, is this still here? But people love it. They take their books, they walk past with their children, their children take books out and put books in. So I'm loath to take away something if they are using it. So I haven't yet found the sort of magic fairy that tidies it up and sorts it out.
No, and to be honest, I do think maybe we do need to do a bit of work with that, because we've had a lot of people contacting us to use it. I think maybe we'll send them a bit of an email back and sort of saying, well, if you are going to use it, can somebody maybe take a bit of responsibility? I did go down and see the bloke from Norton Stores, because to be honest, all this came out because BT contacted us because they went down to take it away and it was for the books.
Yeah.
And they contacted us and they said, are you doing this? And I said, no, the same as you. It's been there years. I didn't know who was doing it. So I went down to Norton Stores and went to the board, but nobody seemed to know anybody was doing it. So that's why we put it out on social media. But there does seem to be a bit of a groundswell of opinion that people wanted. I've got no particular objection to it.
Well,
People do, I think, just when they go past.
It's to adopt the kiosk. I think it's only something like £1. It's a peppercorn thing. The biggest expense, as far as I can see from the exchange that we've had, is we're going to have to replace the glass in it because it's got BT logo on it. But you know, that's not going to be a major expense.
We say we're happy for you to be there.
Well, it's advertising for them, but that's what they said.
there is a panel missing. And
There is a panel missing.
Councillors have their hand up, Chair.
Angela, have you got your hand up or you?
Hi, thank you. No, I did have my hand up. Yeah, two things. Is it to keep it as a book share or to put a defib in there? Question one. And question two, I've been contacted. I forwarded one of the emails actually to Sarah because it was a resident in her ward, but he was actually complaining about a lot of people are just dumping stuff near where the phone box is. And I think that's his massive reservation, opposite to those in support of it, is that actually he's fed up of all the rubbish that's constantly being dumped there, because obviously it looks very untidy and messy with all the books overflowing, and people are just using it as a dumping ground to dump their own rubbish. And he's getting fed up of tidying it all and contacted the council to tidy it all up.
Yeah, no, that is a point. Sorry, that is a point, but on your defib point, it's not about putting a defib there. There is already a defib just on the other side of the wall of the bore front.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, go on, just.
Yes, it was one person who complained about it, but there were so many who wanted it, and the one person who complained about it wanted that bit of land as well.
Yeah, it's vested interest in it, yes.
I don't think it is a valid point. You know, I've gone past this sometimes, and people are just dumping stuff there stuff outside.
Do you think books or just rubbish?
Rubbish.
Thanks, Andrew.
Toys dumped there, to be honest, as well. But like anyway, all I'm sort of saying, I do think maybe there's a bit of work to say to people, look, yes, we will support you in maintaining this, but can you take a bit of ownership of it yourself?
I think that's what we should do, Chair.
Yeah.
I think we should actually
Definitely.
ask on social media and say, who will stand forward and help?
Yeah.
Rather than.
That do, yes.
Absolutely 100% behind this. I think we should go one step further and maybe see if the post office has any of those old big post office boxes that we could use as a depository for people to deposit books in. Because obviously we don't want it overflowing and all books getting wet and ruined, so nobody.
That's one of the old red ones.
Yes. Yeah. So
No, that is. That's it there.
Great, go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised at some of the comments that have been made. Every time I've walked past there, and that's been innumerable times, and it's just neglected, and it's a dump. The books are just being dumped there, they're not managed, they're not cleaned, the glass is broken, they get soaking. The whole thing is it's just, well, if I lived next door to it, I wouldn't be happy, assure you. It's neglected.
Well, all I
The
can
requirement, if somebody's decided to use it without approval, and that's what's caused the problem.
Yeah.
We had one in Newton. It took us about 2 years to get it moved because that was being used as a nighttime urinal and a dumping ground for Christmas trees. And it was just an absolute nightmare. And I don't see any benefit in that as a venue. I wouldn't want the books in my house.
All I can say in reply to that, we did put out a call on social media, and just generally the overall has been positive about it. So just responding to that.
Toys. The thing now is, if you've got stuff left over, people are just leaving stuff on their garden walls. I do, and then people take it as they want to.
It's a post-pandemic thing.
Yeah.
No, you know, that's what I mean. All I'm just sort of saying, I'm just recounting what I've been counted. But I do think that there is definitely scope for keeping it a bit tidier than what it is. Like, Kerry? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
People that have expressed it, they contacted and asked if they'd be willing to be
Yes.
part of this friends with the phone box group. And then obviously, once the glass has been changed, it's been tidied up, it's handed over to that group and it's their responsibility, and there'd be a clear SLA between the council and the friends.
Yeah.
But also then, this is just me thinking a little bit further, be the basis of a project that you could use for more participating as well. If
Yeah.
it's a little bit of.
Yes. I do.
building on it in that sense.
Yeah, that's the next step, but I definitely think what if we're happy to proceed with the adoption of this meeting today, I think the next step then is to message all those people who have messaged us and sort of say, look, we're prepared to give some support, yeah, but we expect them to.
Yeah, we don't want to be left holding the baby. We want them to say we have.
And what I would be very loath to do is to end up for particularly our new grounds person to be at the. But at the same time, you know, let's be honest, we've had this one outside the frontier, which has been maintained by local people, and that's been a great success. Like.
Yeah.
So can I just put it to the vote? I think there's general consensus that we're happy to proceed with this.
Yeah.
All those in favour, we'll take forward. All those against?
Abstention.
Abstention, okay. Record that. Right. Point 17, to appoint a school governor for Clondero School. Anybody putting themselves forward for that?
Yes, I thought
Look at the next one, she wants to be.
She did, but then unfortunately after the meeting, she emailed me to say that she
She
withdrew her nomination to be the governor there.
I thought you were going to go to.
Amelia went to go for it at first, and then she decided to go.
Well, no, she was told she couldn't because she didn't speak Welsh.
Yeah, she's got her hand up anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my concerns with being a councillor for, or governor, sorry, for Clondero was the language barrier if they do have their meetings in Welsh. So I've now opted to be part of St David's School.
Angela, who told Rhian you had to speak Welsh?
Well, I mentioned it in the meeting.
Carrie said in the last meeting.
Okay.
I didn't say, no, I didn't, Angela. I never said they had to. I said they were encouraged.
Okay.
Very.
Okay, so we
But I guess
clarified.
if they hold the meetings in Welsh, you wouldn't be able to maybe.
Yeah.
But whichever way, have we got any councillor who wants to put themselves forward for the governor of Clondero School?
Helen, think about it. Helen's children are there.
Well, if they ask why no councillor has put themselves forward, we can quite truthfully say because all of their meetings are in Welsh.
Well, they're not.
Are they meetings?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. say that.
as much as they can speak in Welsh, and then they tell me what they said.
Well, it's hard for you to contribute if you're being updated every so often.
Okay, well, again, what I'd suggest that we do, we circle it up to all councillors that we're looking for a governor of Clondero School. And if we don't have any takers, then I suppose we can communicate that to Clondero that councillors cited that as a reason. Okay, so point 18, to consider a request from Councillor Rhian Evans to move from Environmental Committee to Culture Committee.
Yeah, there's less than 9 on each.
Yeah, I think we already looked at this. Just check, just in case.
So, yeah, check. Let me check.
Okay.
Okay, are we all happy with that? Thank you very much. So then, point 19, to approve the contribution of £100 to host Madame Le Marché Henbon Twinning Wrexham.
MCC children.
That means you can officially be here. Because you're there on behalf of NCC.
Okay, I withdraw my.
We've allocated them £500 for this event. And then we've allocated so much then for a presentation. So what's this £100 for? Yeah.
It's customary for the chair to host the mayor or the mayor's representative. And obviously the chair does have quite a significant annual allowance. The chair is unable in this instance to host, and therefore Sarah and Phil Keaton have very kindly volunteered to host her. But obviously that requires them to then be taking her to various different places, some of which involve having to pay an entrance fee that although they are paid for by Twinning, obviously the host wouldn't be. And therefore, you know, it just seems reasonable that in order to enable them to not be hugely out of pocket for having made a very kind gesture, that's nowhere near as much as it's potentially going to cost, because, you know, dinners and everything else for, you know, for two people, buying the food to feed, you know, her and her son. And as we know, 16-year-old boys eat a lot of food. So it just seemed a reasonable suggestion.
Obviously, we don't want Phil and Sarah to be out of pocket. But at the same time, there are other families who are also hosting. So can we single out one family?
Yes, not so.
Actually,
With us.
please.
So, you know, if we're gonna reimburse one family for hosting other people, then there are other families who are also giving up their time and money by going to events. What I would recommend is that if the people you are hosting have to you have to go to these events where you have to pay to get in, I suggest the Twinning Association of Mumbles pay those fees.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The difference is, I go to France and I put up a family in France. They are coming back to me. I put them at this time. So any financial things are reciprocated because they pay for me out there. I pay for them here. Sarah and Phil don't go to France, and that's the difference.
Okay,
Also, they are the only people hosting someone who is here on behalf of the community of Hennebon, which is the equivalent of NCC. They're not members of the Twinning Association. All the rest of the host families are members of the Twinning Association, and therefore they host people from France, from the Twinning Association, and that is sorted out through the Twinning Association. This is NCC's contribution, is to host the mayor's.
It's very kind of this to be put on the agenda. This was not something that we knew was going to be agendaed when we made the offer, and regardless of whether this council votes yay or nay to it, we will still do it.
You would like CCL.
Can I make a suggestion? Danny's already made the point that I, as chair, have an allowance. I'm quite prepared to pay this £100 out of my own allowance. Is that fair enough?
Yes,
That's fine, yeah.
Is everybody happy?
And MCA does pay for all of the fees for the French.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. We don't, MCA does.
I think that would be an easy way of resolving a situation. So, well, have anything to come in on?
Martin, I'll go halves with you if you want. I'm fine to support it.
Oh, this is not.
You have a specific allowance for this, Angela. You don't need to do that.
No, don't worry about that.
You have an allowance. Okay.
So we've resolved that situation.
In some ways, this is a bit yucky because when we offered, we didn't expect any of this anyway. So
I don't know why you came on the agenda.
Thank you for doing it, Sarah and Phil. Thank you for doing it.
We've resolved the situation now, anyway. So there's no problem there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
those in favour of my proposal, done about that, thank you very much. No problem at all. So point 20 is the approve the continued co-option of Ed Hall and Chris Evans and representatives of Plastic Free Mumbles on the Environmental Committee.
Yes.
Any problem with that? We're all happy to agree with that? Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you all for your time this evening. I'll draw this meeting to a conclusion.
Sorry, you should take a
Thank
back.
you. Bye.
Thank you.
We just switch it on.
Bear in mind.
Wonderful.